For today's quick plugin review, we're going to take a look at the Nils K1v Kawai Synthesizer emulation. So let's read a quick description and then get into some of the pros and the cons. Honestly, one of the coolest things about this plugin is just kind of reading through this blog and seeing the progress that was made and the ways that it was made if you're a super nerdy person the way I am. And as you can see, there's several pages detailing everything that went on with this. And I found that to be really, really cool. But let's move into the pros and the cons of the actual instrument itself. As you can see, I've given this instrument a 4 out of 10, and that's not because it's programmed badly or that there's anything wrong with it. It's just the usability component and the fact that you're really only going to use it when you absolutely need it for a specific sound or a specific project. If you're trying to capture the vibe and flow of, like, I don't know, Japanese city pop or something, and you know that they use that instrument for some of the sounds, this is a great instrument to have because you'll have access to those sounds. And, you know, like I said, when you need it, you need it. One of the other positives that I like about it is just kind of how unapologetically early digital it sounds. Like, there's no smoothing of that out. So it does require some processing, but I actually find that to be a positive in a world where almost everything is always trying to run away from that in the software world because it requires some extra love and care in your processing. But let's talk about the cons. For some people, and depending on how you plan to use this instrument, the amount that you have to mix and process these sounds to make them usable and to make them work and to not just have a super crowdy and messy low, mid to mid range, it's a lot of work, and it's what you'd have to do to really get this instrument to fit. The tweaking of the sounds actually going in, and I'm sure this is, you know, partly due to the emulation nature of the thing, that's not a lot of fun. It's really kind of a pain, to be honest. So it's not a sort of synthesizer that you're going to go in there and like really have a lot of fun getting under the hood and changing parameters. It's just not that kind of an instrument. And then it's unapologetically digital in all the worst ways. So when you do want it to be a little bit smoother or creamier, that just doesn't exist. And there are certain patches that you'll bring in that at certain notes will play out some really resonant and really ringy frequencies that are just like painful on the ears. And I think that's the design of the thing. I don't think that it's done, that is an error in any shape or way, but it's just something that you have to watch out for if you are trying to bring this in and use it in your production. So let's actually look at the instrument, listen to a tiny little ditty I created, and we'll talk about this thing just a little bit further. Let's do it. Let's start by taking a really quick listen to this little creation I've made. Everything here is using the K1v. And you listen to that and you go, okay, I mean, it sounds pretty bad and it's not mixed particularly well, but if we were to go in and we were to turn off all of the effects for each of these instruments, it would sound a lot more out of control. This bass sounds pretty good actually on its own. All it really probably needs is just some smoothing out in like that low mid range. But that's what I did with the processing. Go into the lead. And that's more one of those sounds that needs a lot of aggressive work in order to make it fit with other parts. You could hear again in the low mids, and there's some resonant frequencies that are really peaking out and are kind of unpleasant. And then we have this guitar, and this is the one that I probably was most aggressive on. And you wouldn't need to be that aggressive just to get it to fit with the other parts. Some of that's just creative liberties and going maybe a little bit too far with it. But all in all, you could hear how if we had all of those things turned off and we played them together, it would be very messy. So you do need to be prepared if you are going to use this instrument to do some really heavy EQ work, to do some sound shaping and sound sculpting. That's fun for a lot of people. Personally, it's not that much fun for me. I would prefer to have the sounds a little bit closer to where I want them to be when I bring them on. But all in all, I mean, you can still hear that you can create some kind of cool, vintagey sounding things. And finally, we can come in and look at the actual instrument. Pretty much what you see is what you get. You'll notice that when we go into the edit modes, there's really not a lot to play with and adjust. And so really the key to this instrument are the waveforms that you're selecting. And obviously you do have an envelope that you can work with. And then if you need to go and do something at the like macro level of all those waveforms mixed together, you can do that here, specifically with volume or even just muting some of those sources. You have the ability to mix those various sources by changing that around. It's not going to work all that great on this sound because, and let's go into our sources and see, we have voice loop, string loop, voice loop, and string loop. So they're all roughly the same sound. That's why that's not going to have the biggest difference in the world. We also have a multi-mode, and with multi-mode, that is where you're going to be able to stack various presets on top of each other and then mix them together. So let's go over to multi here and pick something out. And that's a great one because it has so many different sounds and stuff. And you can then see how it's working and how you can apply key ranges to the sounds. You can still mix them. You can choose, where it's going to appear in the stereo image. And it goes all the way through to 8 if you do want to go really crazy with it. So that's the multi-mode. That one might be more fun for some people, depending on what it is you're looking for. But on the whole, really, I think where this instrument shines the best, if you were to use it, is that you do have a search option. So I could go in here, for example, and search for guitar, and we could probably find the guitar that would best suit our needs, and then we could go and we could kind of edit that further or mix it to taste, or whatever it is that we have to do. So this is the Nils Kawai digital synthesizer emulation of the K1v. I do think it's fun. However, it's not going to be usable in a lot of circumstances and situations, and that's totally fine. But as a kind of niche instrument that's cool and you might find a usage for it on very specific tracks, definitely worth checking out. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll be back with another one of these soon. Take care. Bye.